And this one is a game where players act as general managers to a baseball team, and at the start of the game you're going to be choosing the team that you're going to be managing, which is going to be granting you some sort of special abilities, but it's also going to dictate the amount of budget that you have to spend throughout the entirety of the game. You're also going to be hiring a manager to your team, which will also grant you with another ability, but this one will usually come at the cost of assigning a die in order to activate that ability, which I will come back to later. But of course, you're going to need players for your team, and at the start of each round, each player is going to be dealt a hand of cards, and then you're going to be going through a drafting phase where you can choose one of those cards and then pass the remaining cards to the next player. Or instead, if there's no cards there that you want to draft to your team, you can instead choose to discard one of those cards from the game so that no other players can get it. Some of these cards are going to be major league players that can just go straight into your team, while others are prospects that aren't quite ready for the big leagues, and you're going to have to wait until the following round until you're able to add those into your team. Of course, each of these players do also cost you some amount of money, and you're going to have to pay that to add them to your team, and then any players that you keep on your team, you're either going to have to pay them more the following rounds, or choose to cut them from your team, which will allow you to get some of that money back. But each of these cards are going to have different positions, as well as different amounts of blue dice that they could grant you, or different amounts of red dice, and each of them will also have dice placement locations on the bottom of the card, requiring a certain number of dice of a certain icon. If you're able to fill all those locations and then also match the appropriate icons, it's going to get you their max amount of wins on the right side of the card. But if you're able to just fill them up without matching the icons, then it's going to be granting you with the left amount of wins. And the goal is to try and get the most wins each round so that you can gain a trophy, but also to try and get over 16 wins, because that can also grant you another trophy. But the way this works is once all the players have created their teams, each player is going to be checking how many blue dice their cards grant them, and then you're going to be taking that amount of dice and rolling them, and then assigning them to the different locations on your cards. Each of the cards can have some special abilities that could help them or their team in different ways, so you do want to be taking advantage of those as well anytime that you can. But after all the players have assigned their dice, you're all going to be checking how many red dice are on your cards, and then you're going to be contributing all of those dice into a common pool, where all the players are then going to be taking turns drafting from. You'll be using those dice to fill up any remaining spaces on your various cards, and then all the players will just tally up the number of wins for that round and then take the appropriate amount of trophies. You'll also want to make sure that you're getting players of different positions, because you can only include the wins from one player from each position. But the game continues like this over a series of rounds, with players adding and removing different players from their team. And then the player with the most trophies at the end of the game wins the game, and if you do want to check this one out, I will have it linked down below.